It's a bit chilly now that we're coming towards winter. Look at me, I've got a big jacket on and a woolly jumper. It's raining outside, it's miserable, it's cold. And so we're spending a lot more time inside. Inside, away from the sunshine. Well, of course, we only have to look up into the sky every now and again and we can see that aeroplanes seem to be shoving out all sorts of chemicals into the sky to cause the great dimming, one of the biggest problems that we have to face at the moment, in which the sun is being blocked from getting down to the ground and keeping us healthy. One of the other things that we have with chemicals is that they're everywhere, aren't they? Not just in the sky or in being put into the water, but we also spray them on the surfaces and we spray them on ourselves. They're in soaps and in all sorts of cleaning products all over the place. Well, I met a lady yesterday, had a cup of coffee with her, and she explained that she has terrible reactions to chemicals. All sorts of chemicals, the sort of chemicals that you and I perhaps don't have a reaction, but there are people out there, and maybe you are one of those, who have these reactions. And she had problems where she couldn't breathe, she had problems with her skin, all sorts of issues with it that was just making life incredibly disruptive. And I thought to myself, well, I don't know what to do about this. Maybe I could call out to the lovely viewers to find out if other people have these reactions. You'll remember that 3 years ago, of course, we were all told that we had to stay indoors, and there was these antibiotics all over the place being sprayed everywhere. Well, these again are other artificial chemicals. And it did strike me that these artificial chemicals are seeping into our body in all sorts of different places. We've become so used to sort of wiping surfaces and making things spotlessly clean that our ordinary, everyday, natural immune system is not used to real life germs and dirt and things like that. And we ought to be able to sort of build up our immunity to everyday pathogens and problems, and yet we don't, because we try and live in such a sterile environment. Well, anybody who's visited my house will know that pretty much I don't have the regular house. It is a 2 up, 2 down terraced house, but I don't have the conventional kitchen with all the sort of open plan tabletop ware and cupboards and things that you can wipe down. Mine's very much like a 1940s kitchen. And also I have a wood burning stove which I heat all my food on, and I heat my house with, and I heat the hot water on, and I hang above the washing. And bringing in logs in order to sort of keep that going means that there's a lot of ash, there's a lot of dirt that comes into the house. It gets under your fingernails and all the rest of it. I do wash my hands just in water, and of course I try to keep my water as clean as possible and filtered. But everywhere you go, this lady was telling me you can't even go into shops and things because they're wiping down the counters. Windows are being cleaned with chemicals. And chemicals just seem to be put into everything, into clothes, into plastics, all over. Plastics, of course, are quite dangerous these days because they're off-gassing into products. I bought some milk. Now, I bought this milk thinking that it was raw milk, and I want to do a video about this once I've found a decent supplier of creamy raw milk. But this was Jersey milk, and on the website it claimed it was whole milk. And it didn't mention that it was pasteurized at all. It claimed that it was unhomogenized, but it didn't mention that it was pasteurized. And it just kept talking about it as whole milk. And because I didn't see the word pasteurized, I assumed that whole milk was another word for raw milk. But when it came, of course, on the bottle, it said it was pasteurized. And I was deeply disappointed because I want to get back to more natural things and away from all this artificial stuff or processes which kill certain goodness in it, and we'll get on to milk in another video, I'm sure. But anyway, the thing that I suppose disappointed me is that the milk itself came in plastic bottles, and we know that plastic is very, very convenient, but when your food stuff is in so much of that plastic, it's a problem. So anyway, I had a job load of these. I shoved them all into the freezer, but bar a couple of these bottles, and immediately decanted them into glass. which of course I cleaned, but not with any chemicals, because these chemicals are leaching into us all the time and affecting us. And of course, that period that we had, say, I don't know, 3 years ago, where we had to stay indoors, and then the year later they came up with this syringe of hope and we had these enforced medical interventions. Well, when that happened, of course, we've started to see that those people who took that with the massive psyop to say it was probably better than our own natural immunity, and we're now learning that actually that's not necessarily the case, and especially if you've had to booster it, you may be filled with junk that's not actually very good, and in some cases it seems to be that it's lowering the natural immunity. Now, whilst there are protocols you can take to minimize the effect of this thing, and people are looking to create ways to get shot of it altogether so that you don't suffer with any of these nasty side effects that so many of the drugs from big pharma do produce, not least death being one of them. You only have to look at all the small print in the little leaflet that comes with, even with an aspirin or a paracetamol. You see that actually there are side effects to it, and possibly the best result is to look for alternative health and natural remedies rather than these synthetic manufactured ones with alternatives. Of course, I think most of us are beginning to become aware that actually these large corporations that are producing this kind of pills are perhaps not actually looking after our health. They're more about making a massive profit for themselves and keeping us down and keeping us low so that we continually go back as customers and purchase more of their rather nasty pills. And because this particular injection may have been lowering our natural immunity, that some people will find these chemicals that are leaching into the environment and not only damaging us but also the planet in and of itself, may find that their natural immunity isn't as strong as it ought to be. And so I'm just appealing really to find out if there are any more people out there who suffer quite severely from chemical reactions in everyday products, because wouldn't it be nice to get back to a situation where we didn't need these synthetic chemicals in our washing up liquid, for example, or our bubble bath, or the sprays that we put onto us to make us smell nice, or on the surfaces of things, or in the window washing stuff, or stuff that's in the plastic, or even on cars or in new cars. I mean, this poor lady said that she was after a new car, but she couldn't have a brand new car because everything had this sort of chemical sprays, and you had to wait for all of that to leach out into the environment, and so that it was no longer present in the fabric of the cars or on the dashboard, or in all the plastics and everything else. So you can see that it's a very big problem, and we've kind of just come to accept it, haven't we? We've just come to gone, oh, this is part of life. But the planet itself doesn't really want all this synthetics, and those people, those sensitive people, don't want it. You and I don't want it long term because of the various long-term problems it will be giving to us. And of course, think about the animals on the planet and the insects and the invertebrates. They don't want it either. I mean, we've seen the poisons that they put onto the ground, that glyphosate that is put into the food in order to try and stop the pests. That's another thing that, of course, is leaching into everything. And we've got to stop all this poisoning and damaging of the planet. People are focused on the man-made climate change as if CO2 is the problem, which of course is a natural gas, the gas of life. That's not the problem. That isn't the problem. We need to take back control of our lives and think, hang on, how many chemicals do we really need to be spraying or putting onto things which may be affecting us and damaging us and keeping our vibrations low? We are creating the reality for ourselves. Let's push back against these nasty chemicals and try and get back to more natural, sustainable, properly sustainable life, rather than this nonsense that's being pushed at us by these green agendas and net zeros and these big corporation companies with all these synthetic chemicals, which of course is going into the food. We want proper, real, wholesome food, holistic stuff, rather than this chemical bound universe that we seem to find ourselves in. I'd be interested to see how many other people are affected by that. In the link is a charity, in the description is a link to a charity who deals with people who may suffer with this. So if that helps, thank you very much to the two ladies who came to talk to me the other day and tell me about their issues. And I think it's only right and proper to share that and to share the link. So if you suffer from chemical damage and adversity, do check out that link and see if they can support you. Because we all, in this new world that we're building, we all need to find a better way of living, and we will.